my main thing forever is gonna be that the conditional um God, what's the word I'm looking for? Conditional signing should remain conditional. That's about it.
I mean,
Yeah,
I have concerns,
Hmm?
but I'm pretty much as anti-STO as they come in our faction.
gotcha. Well, if you have any questions, we can definitely answer them and whatnot for you. Anyways,
Is it recording yet?
yeah, it is.
All right, then I won't ask my question.
Oh, do you want me to not record?
No, that's fine.
God, please, please. Why are you doing this? But yeah, I mean, I the only question I have is why tell Pixis? That's like one of my main, like, what the fuck happened there questions, really.
Tell Pixis what specifically? Sorry.
The 14 Red Dogs switch.
Oh, I don't know. That's just some good faith stuff that our faction wanted to do, and I think a lot of us regret it. Um,
Okay.
just because of the backlash we got. We've had like a lot
Yeah.
of dealings with Pixis specifically, and Pixis has put their neck out for us a few times. At least it's been like at odds with the AS and Houses Minor, and
Mm.
they've still like pushed through some of this stuff. But after seeing how much effort it is to get stuff approved, it's not really worth it. Um, but yeah, it was just like a turn one, turn zero thing that's been happening.
All
We
right.
it, basically, yeah, pretty much what he said. We honor our agreements, and we had a specific agreement with Pixis. They, um, they pretty much implied that the agreement is nullified. So we're whatever about that from this point forward. Really, in my opinion.
All right. Just wanted to make sure because I know Gov is good. I don't know if you're gonna ask the question, but if you could like what's your plan with Lodestone? Like is it going down? Is it staying up? Is it something you've considered even? Because if there's like bad relations with Pixis, I feel like it doesn't matter much anymore. Because I know it was like a big thing about how no we shouldn't hurt the Pixies because they're bros.
Um, from my perspective, it's not valuable for us to target Lodestone at this point because they're like far away, and we'd be the only ones who can ever go there. Not that I have an interest in targeting them because it wouldn't be useful.
Mm.
Um,
I
so
completely disagree with that. But go ahead.
sure. From my perspective, though, with the board pieces that we have right now, we don't mind just ignoring them or whatever. But as they have effectively stated that our agreement is whatever now, and they don't trust us, so on and so forth, then we can move in any direction forward on that, in my opinion.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure because I know Gov was
Yeah,
the old yeah.
essentially, like, just to voice some of my concerns is that this may sound very weird coming from the CHR, but I'm concerned that Acre is negotiating for peace. Um, because I think us joining the STO and peace being negotiated is bad. Like, if we join the STO, I think it's better if the STO goes to war with the Empire.
I can I I can speak to that specifically. You're only seeing external things. I think the majority of Acre has set conditions in which war is inevitable. Um, they don't want to give up their PTR, and the thing that Houses Minor wants is to get rid of that PTR. And they can't even the only way that they've even had discussions about getting rid of those PTRs is that new scrap deal. I don't know if you've guys seen that rule.
Yeah.
Like that's 100% a Diplo rule. And I don't foresee either side scrapping the assets that are required for peace to happen. There are people that obviously want peace, but it's a vocal minority, I think.
I will say this too, that like I will be extremely upset at both sides if they do go to peace, because I feel like as a fan of the show, you don't make a declaration like Crux did, and you don't read poetry like you guys did, and then back out 1 month later.
I agree. The biggest thing that a lot of the people advocating for peace is that this is a dumb reason to go to war, which is literally zero reason. This is all mechanical, which is kind of why I'm hoping that Vela gets excommunicated or we get yelled at by High Church, because I think we're all in agreements in Vela that if that does happen, we give the Empire 2 middle fingers and the STO will go to war for us. But maybe Jasir can talk on that because he's a little bit more conservative.
I mean, I guess I've had my decisions kind of back and forth a bit on this, but I do I am like, on the side of like, what Lucky is saying, like, yeah, like if we kind of do just like it just sounds like, yeah, like we need more of a narrative to go on, but it's there. We could go to war, like whatever, but in my opinion, I just see it as like as soon as this CHR join STO, like that's it. Like we'll get that declaration from the High Church, and it should be it. But yeah.
Well, the Astral Synedrium doesn't deal in narrative.
Yeah, and that's the problem though. It's like I don't think that they're representing the Houses Minor in the way that Houses Minor should be represented. But it's the same people that keep getting voted in, so people being represented are happy with the way they're being represented, I guess. So
Referring to the peace talks again, I just think common sentiment is that it's the demands being made are basically impossible. So, but like maybe there's a 1% chance that peace happens, but the fact that they will not give on any particular ask, and we will not give in turn,
It's not a negotiation, yeah.
yeah, exactly.
The other two concerns are kind of in the same area, which is I've heard on multiple occasions from a lot of people, and so if there's smoke, there's fire, that there is 100% intent, at least on Acre's part, for when the moment the House of Minor goes down, they negotiate peace.
Okay.
Which is bad on us.
No, I understand.
Because we would be going in for fighting, church fight, right?
Yeah. So I can talk to that because I'm one of the main mechanical people on the STO. I have been doing a lot of the mechanical stuff, and everything that I said should be done last turn was done, minus one thing, or plus one thing. So the swing at High Church actually doesn't involve Acre. And if Acre does negotiate peace outside of the STO, we have enough cunning factions to kill them afterwards. So I have no problems just flat out stating that. If they're not willing to continue war as the STO terms, then we have no problems cutting Acre out of the STO and making sure that they're the next big faction to fall. Because once the Houses Minor fall, I believe that a lot of the minor factions will fall. I believe that Crux will have nobody to turn to. I don't think that Cerberus will stay with anybody because they'll then be the next biggest threat.
You mean House Fornax, right?
Yeah, exactly. No, it's quote house quote Fornax. Yeah, because they're no longer a house anymore. So I don't think that that's a concern. And the plan that I have has us killing the High Church without stats being a requirement. So again, it's not even something that'll become bloody, I don't think. And it's something that we're able to deal with if that occasion does happen.
Honestly, the plan that you've written up is kind of hilarious, and I think it would be great if it played out that way.
Yeah, I hope it does.
And then my other part is that at least Sunny told me that like you guys are really against killing Pixis, and we really like Pixis too. Like they're wonderful people and stuff. But to me, the only actionable dent you can make immediately in the House Minor stuff this turn is pretty much nuking Lodestone. And that really puts the boot on the neck of the House Minor, right? Because from what I understand, the assumption is that if two houses fall, they're going to lose stats.
No, that's not true. So the two house thing is not a thing. If there's nothing in the documents, then it's not a rule. Adam's flat out said that, and he's reinforced that with me specifically. I've asked him, is there any way a faction can drop stats? And he said, at this moment, no. So war with Houses Minor currently means we kill the faction. And as far as swinging Lodestone, last turn, it also wasn't a good option because of them putting one asset on the planet, and the amount of assets that we could get on the planet just wasn't enough to swing. And now that one less faction can actually get assets onto Lodestone, it's mathematically worse. All they need to do is just put up not a party machine. What's the other one? Popular movement on the planet, and they're pretty much untouchable. We would be swinging.
You guys hit before them this turn.
Pardon?
You guys hit before them this turn, right?
I don't know their turn order, so unless you have that information,
But I don't. Where's our giant list of turn orders in our?
We don't have HM, yeah.
Right, but I thought doesn't Vela go third?
We're up there, but one faction swinging at. So the way that it would work is that first off they have base influence, so we have to attack the base influence, and then a roll happens. Our assets are cunning versus cunning, so we're cunning 6, they're cunning 7. From that point, I mean, we already have a less. I think so. Yeah. We have a less chance of not even being able to break the BOI. And this turn specifically, we only have one asset that we can move there via the covert shipping plus attack. So at most, we can deal 8 damage to them, which, I mean, it's helpful.
You guys can deal 4 plus 1 plus 16.
That's we can't move everything and attack.
Yeah, but you already have a counter intel unit there already, and then you would move the demagogue with covert ship.
But you got to realize that it's like 50%, less than 50% for us to attack. Because again, this is the boy, right?
I get that.
Yeah.
But I'm saying that never mind.
There's
it's less relevant if the stat reduction doesn't happen. Because the point I was trying to make was that if the stat reduction happens, you put them in a situation on Aomori where they can't
everything
out on Aomori, or they have to block with the transit web.
Yeah,
and that's a bad choice either way.
And that's not again, like, I would agree with you if that was the case, but I have no indication and no rules that that's the case, and I have confirmation from Adam that that isn't the case. So it's hard for us to kind of justify like moves where it's okay, we're only going to deal 8 damage here, whereas for example, like any other play, like even us having an asset there has them either having one of their allies commit assets to that planet, or having them commit assets to that planet. So we can use cheap assets to put onto planets just to tax their expensive assets, because it taxes their turn economy, and that's something that we have an advantage over. Like right now,
I think the current asset there is a little.
no, it would have
I
to
would
be something
prefer
else,
something
like a
more-
zealot
yeah,
or
something
something. Yeah.
that threatens 7 damage.
But the idea there is just to put a threat, and if we give that asset to a different faction that can use it better, that one's pretty shitty. But there's like wealth assets that we can dump to Acre, and there's we could just use cunning assets and whatever, right? Like it still taxes them. The idea is just to have cheap assets on planets where they have to have expensive assets. And because we have at the moment we have 5 factions or 6 factions turn economies to play with, not including the UPCs, so that would be 7 or factions to play with turn actions. That gives us a really good base to flood planets or create more fronts than they can deal with, which is the plan.
Yeah. Speaking more to develop that point, we don't have the real damage dealing capacity, especially with our stats versus theirs. So, in effect, a lot of us are useful in combo stacks, like stacking up with Acre, for instance, or as a feint threat, like you mentioned. But I feel with our assets and our resources and our available factions, I feel that we may be better off helping to defend for Acre so that Acre stays alive as long as possible with all their assets. I mean, when they stack, if they stack.
And
I also think with like, if you're talking about money funneling and like asset funneling, I think you're going to run into some personal issues, at least in CHR probably a little bit, and almost certainly in UPC, where like people will feel like they're losing the agency of choosing for what their faction does in order to conform with the plan or to funnel money to where it's most effective to try and win. I feel like that's once you start talking about like conjoined decision making, you're walking a fine line a little bit.
So at the moment, we've got some factions that can't provide anything to war efforts, like 14 Red Dogs specifically.
I wonder who you're talking
Yeah,
about.
there's some plays that they can make for setup, but for the long term, they realize that they're just a money throwing faction, and that's going to be their contribution. And I think Prism's kind of on the same boat. And as long as mechanically, like I'm open to listening to any mechanical plays. Like to me, I like hearing as many mechanical plays as possible, just so then that way, maybe I can fit it in somewhere, or maybe it won't be relevant this turn, but in 2 turns from now, we're in the position to take advantage of that. Like I like having that information, so I'm always willing to listen to any strategies, and I'm always willing to tell you why I think one strategy is better than the other. And if you want to discuss why you disagree with that, like I'm completely open with that. And like I said, I'm one of the main people that are doing the military tactic decisions at the moment. And I definitely need help in that aspect, like running math or just thinking a little bit outside of the box. Definitely helps. So
Unfortunately, I'm not allowed on the STO server.
why?
I mean, yeah, if we join up, then
Yeah, when
we
you
will have to
join,
come back.
anybody can pop in.
No,
I mean, it's an
Oh.
internal and not allowed.
I
internal
see.
Not
thing.
external.
I
Yeah.
see.
We put people where they are strong, and we don't put people where they are weak.
Hmm.
And I would be weak on the STO server because of personal issues.
I'm sure we can set up a special permission specifically for you for faction turn stuff if that's what you're interested in.
I don't know. God, if someone else would do more faction turn stuff, I'd love it. What is
I mean,
it,
I'll
like
be
4
around
days
as
straight,
well.
me and you in every meeting?
Yeah. We need like one more person.
Oh. Whoops. Sorry about that.
It's okay.
Thank
I
you.
don't mind that it got caught.
Start talking shit.
Jesus.
It's just time to start talking shit.
Yeah.
So okay, because Sunny hasn't been able to find anything out, but was it 2 days ago? Because I'm on like almost every Houses Minor like individual Diplo server. Like 2 days ago or 3 days ago, there was like apparently Fornax and Vagrant finally talked to the High Church, and Big Daddy High Church said, "No, you're not nobles." And then like 2 days ago, there was a mass influx of Fornax and Vagrant diplomats onto all the House Minor individual servers. So like, did they make up? Do you guys know, or are they still pissy at each other? The House Minor and Fornax Vagrant specifically.
With us?
No, like
No, with each other.
with each other.
Oh.
Like apparently Fornax promised Vagrant, "Hey, you're gonna get legitimized." Houses Minor basically said nodded and said sure, whatever, and no one checked with the church. And then a couple of days back, they finally checked with the church, and the church said, "Yeah, no, that's not happening." And then the Houses Minor said, "Yeah, we side with the church," and so they had like a feud, and then there was a bunch of diplomats from Fornax and Vagrant suddenly appearing on a bunch of House Minor servers. So like I'm trying to figure out if they've made up or if they're still pissy.
Their peace talk front on that end is kind of awkward and disjointed from what they've been telling our STO diplomats. So they're they're having a hard time conveying their relationship with Vagrant, I guess you could say.
Well, because what I'm interested in is like, can Vagrant and Fornax be peeled away, or be convinced to sit on the sidelines? Because like, the numbers of Empire as is versus current STO plus UPC and CHR is like within the margins of error into like slightly positive STO, but the numbers of the giant STO stack versus Crux, Trilliant, Houses Minor, High Church is very, very, very good.
So to that front, like I said, mechanically we're trying to pull them away from planets that they want to control, which would, again, if our primary target's Houses Minor at this point, because they're the easiest and most influential faction to kill at the moment. Like it'll have the most bang for our buck, and it's the easiest one. It's the goal is to pull them away. So we have multiple ways of doing this. For example, like I said, pumping, like putting one or two assets on Lodestone is definitely a way to pull one big asset from that stack, or pull Crux and Fornax support from that stack. If you look at Trilliant's positioning, we can definitely position out of their range, and that's not a problem for us. And if they have to dump assets to High Church and Houses Minor, that just means that they're not getting assets from other means, which again, it's Trilliant might be a little bit of a problem to deal with, and we've talked a little bit about how we can deal with the Trilliant problem, but at the moment they're not entirely set up as per the shipping combine. It can only pull one commodity broker. It can only pull them 2 hexes onto one planet, one Houses Minor planet. So their involvement is pretty slow going. That's I think is the
No, I think you misunderstood me.
Hmm.
I meant specifically, is there a way with the current dispute
I don't
diplomatically to drive Fornax and Vagrant completely onto the sideline?
I
Like
don't
they won't participate.
I don't think that they're necessarily going to be on any side at the moment. Our personal talks with them kind of have them sitting on the sidelines. And as far as them putting people back into Diplo channels, they've also like come back to Vela. I think that there's been an influx of them coming back to Vela as well. Let me see here. I believe they've
Yeah, and Vagrant's
Yeah.
Vagrant's one.
yeah. So there's like 3, like they left. They did another blackout, and then now they've come back. So I think it's just them trying to reestablish Diplo ties as much as possible with as many factions as possible. So in that way they have the most doors open. But I don't know if that's the case for you guys. I don't know if they blacked out your
No, they
server
don't
or not.
talk to us anymore.
So yeah, it's a hard read, to be honest. We've got mixed reads from Fornax. Like Vagrant might only be accepted into the Empire if they help the Empire itself, and I don't know if Fornax is really invested in actually helping anybody. So it's a hard read. From that aspect, I think the best thing to do is just tax factions mechanically. If they're not able to help support the Empire, then they can't join the Empire, if that makes sense. I think that's probably the easiest and best route to go down.
And so if you guys have them penciled in the sideline, you guys don't want to go murder Shan, right?
That might be the way that we have them not participating in the wars, is if they're penciled in on Shan.
Yeah, like if they're threatened on their home planet, they're not going to be a threat during the whole war because they're going to waste their entire turn economy for the duration of the conflict trying to survive, really. And that will create plenty of fractures inside the Imperial Alliance, whatever, because they're going to be pressured to take other actions, and they're going to say, no, we literally can't, otherwise we'll die. So, and it'll be fairly easy to make that threat.
Yeah, well, like, again, I've done a lot of planning to kill Vagrant, jokingly, but the way I see it, you guys are the best to do it, because, well, not numbers-wise, we're the best to do it, but in terms of perception-wise, you guys are the best, because in order for us to do it, we have to buy a shipping combine, and that'll tip them off a turn earlier than if you guys say, like, go to Heroa to say, or Demnoff to be like, we're defending, but not actually, right? It gets them, they buy asset one turn slower.
So, the benefit of them knowing what you guys are doing is actually a benefit to the war effort. It forces them. Sure, they'll be harder to kill, but I don't know entirely if the play is to kill them. I think the play is just to make them not part of the war for 2 to 3 to 4 turns.
Well, and this will be Peregrine's argument. instantly to that is that no, I don't want the shipping combine on Cabina, because if we're joining the STO, that means we're being denied on Berkman, which means the shipping combine mechanically is perpetually locked on Cabina. It won't go anywhere for the duration of the game.
What do you mean you can't go to Cabine or you can't go to Berkman?
Because we'll be at war. There are 3 factions on Berkman. All of them will be at war with.
Currently there's only one faction on Cabina or on Berkman.
No, the High
No.
Church,
High
Trillion,
Church and Trillion.
Crux.
High
Crux, I believe, has a unit too.
High Church just
Yeah.
pulled their assets all the way up to north too.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Did they not build the base of influence there?
No,
They
that was
did, but-
Trillion.
Didn't they?
Trillion
Yeah,
built
yeah,
there.
Yeah, High Church, 5 HP base of influence on Berkman.
Oh, well. Again, then they have to buy an asset there or remove assets. Like once you guys, or if you guys join the STO, I think it would be easier for me to explain a lot of the plays that we're able to do. We have, like, there's no reason for High Church to even be down there if we're keeping their attention out of the core, which will be necessary if they want to keep their ally alive. You getting that shipping combine, even if you guys don't do anything with it, I'm fairly confident in stating that we will not only buy it from you guys, but we will also, or we'll take it from you guys, like trade it, refit it into something useful because it's a facility, and then give it back. I'm fairly confident in saying that I think one of the factions would be willing to do that for you guys if you were willing to build it and move it. Then that way you guys waste a turn building it, but it would have just been like building an asset then, because somebody else would have refit it for you.
And the High Church can't afford to waste its turn economy responding to the South because of the huge threat from the North if war breaks out, which it's very likely to be the case. The miners would basically be dead without the High Church focusing their attentions there. And if they don't focus their attentions there, then the miners will fall very quickly. Then the High Church will fall next. And then faction after faction will collapse. The CHR getting a shipping combine on your planet to threaten Vagrant is already knocking down dominoes. It pulls Vagrant away from the war effort. That's one faction out of the game. It creates stress on their alliance as internals start causing problems, which, as you are already aware, they've already had internal problems. Vagrant will basically be useless and probably kicked out in effect. The High Church will be busy focusing up north unless they really just want to react to you, in which case we can apply direct pressure to the High Church and the miners, and the miners will be yelling at the High Church to defend them, so on and so forth. You, as a threat in the south, create like a great deal of opportunities for the entirety of STO, and it creates a very high win percentage chance for this whole operation that ends up with all of us basically getting what we want faction turn wise. You'll be able to get moved to Berkman after we clear out the High Church threat, the miners threat, the Vagrant threat, everything. And we can trade you assets up north in the future too, to give you BOIs and all kinds of things. Like, I personally am okay with the idea of asset trading to build BOIs, which is something that STO was already doing anyway. So if you would be a part of STO, then you would have that opportunity all over the place.
Sonny, do you know if we got the ruling on the? Oh, that wasn't you as Peregrine. Fuck. Well, we're looking into the ruling on the shipping combine.
Oh,
Oh.
he asked it in the mechanical council. We kind of came to the conclusion. Adam didn't state specifically, but all the mechanics people kind of agreed that it pulls from the planet itself and not an AoE
So it-
around it.
Oh, that's so shitty.
Uh,
Why did you guys agree to that?
because that's the ruling. It says there's like a little niche ruling in like the way that it's worded.
Yeah,
Oh.
it's a 2 versus between.
Yeah.
Such a terrible asset now.
It's not because it pulls like a stack and that's why it's useful. But yeah, you guys
Yeah,
can't
no.
park it. You guys can't park it on Berkman and then have access to the core.
Yeah, or like park it. You park one on Imperial Prime, and you basically just move wherever the hell you want.
Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't work like that.
Well, but that works better, I guess, for us because now that I'm looking at what's on Berkman,
Mm-hmm.
Trilliant can only move a commodities broker now. Versus
Exactly.
If it had an AOE poll, they would have 2 commodities brokers and 2 party machines available.
Yeah. So it's
The chance that Trilliant kills us if we leave like everything off Kabina is really low.
yeah, and not only that, but like if that's the main threat, I think give me a second here. No, we're 1 hex away. So I think if they start setting up for something like that, what one of the factions from the STO can do is build a covert shipping on Dio or on Yakia or Heroa, and then just start building, like dumping assets onto just throwaway assets that can just tank hits onto Kabina.
Also, you could hand an asset to Acre, who can do plenty of tanking.
Yeah.
It would just
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like we have the resources there. It's just getting more resources is gonna help us a lot. If CHR sits on the sidelines and UPC sits on the sidelines, I think it's about a 50-50 shot. Because I'm not 100% sold on Vagrant, Fornax, Crux getting involved. 100%.
I think if we sit on the sideline, they're more likely to sit on the sideline. But if we join, they're more likely to join.
Yeah, and honestly, I would rather just know the sides definitively.
Kind of where I'm at.
Yeah,
Tell me who's my friend, tell me who's my enemy, and
exactly.
let's start planning to punch each other in the face.
Exactly. And then no matter what, like if one of the big factions falls, like the rest of the smaller factions will just be like, all right, I'm done. I think war efforts kind of stop after that point.
I don't know about that with Crux. I think Crux would be willing to fight it out to the very end.
Yeah, and
because-
that's because they're made up of lawyers.
yeah.
Yeah, the version of fight it out to the very end, though, is come at us and fight these 2 tanks on our planet.
Yeah,
Good luck.
yeah. I don't know if those tanks will ever move.
No.
But then we can just drop a bunch of monopolies on them and then see what happens. But either way, yeah.
I'm just, I don't know. Do you think, Sonny, that,
Hmm?
just taking a guess at people's opinions, do you think that it'll sell the shipping combine on Kabina with the intent to move on to Vagrant?
Yeah, I think so. Like,
You think it'll
Dom,
sell?
Dom absolutely hates Vagrant, as
That's
we've
true.
noticed. Peregrine is gonna get his panties in a bunch if we finally get to actually murder Vagrant. And then I feel like that's a domino from there. And Davare doesn't really care either way as long as UPC is with us.
If this conflict occurs, I can almost guarantee you that you supporting us in the whole war effort will lead to us supporting you with as many resources as we possibly can in a feasible manner to get you out from down there if you're feeling trapped in the south because of the way the faction turns play out. Like, we will do everything in our power to help you and to help all our allies.
Well, see, the thing is that you have to understand that there's a lot of people in our faction who are they need lore to go with the mechanics, and they tend to be the quieter people in our faction. And as a, well, I don't know what I can say really, but there's a lot of people who have things that they want to do in the core, and plans that are like sit in the south for 5 turns. I think those are slightly harder sells to some people.
Well,
We're not gonna sit there for 5 turns, right? Like that's
I
not.
get it, but I'm exaggerating to to prove a point, right?
So
Yeah.
my point is if you guys just buy the shipping combine and don't even attack with it, it instantly forces Vagrant to buy multiple assets on Shan just because there's a threat there. You guys spending one turn doing something makes them either react or overreact to it. And the last reaction that I heard to a shipping combine plan was buy 2 strike fleets. So we're spending one CHR turn for 2 Vagrant turns. And by then, we'll have 2 of their assets marketed on Tootham. And then they can't participate up north.
Yeah,
And-
but at the end of those days, those strike fleets are still there.
Yeah,
And-
and we have Acre, so
And regarding lore concessions, I think we're moving in heavily in that direction for major lore concessions. Now that I mean, there's a lot of interesting interactions going on regarding lore right now that are, kind of odd, in you could say. I think working with the CHR on building and expanding your lore is something we can absolutely do.
honestly, that's something we want to do because we're so tired of getting shut out from factions and
Yeah.
not
Exactly.
being able to do stuff because factions are too hardcore.
Yeah.
Our lore
What?
was being heavily restricted
No,
effectively.
because I'm
even
talking to
just for,
people.
small
When do you
things
need
that
it moved out?
even had a notion of possibly
Okay,
relating to you at all.
Yeah.
And then we would get a bunch, 1,000 messages like, okay, so you're basically saying
Hello.
treason right now because you said the CHR did the, come on. But
yeah.
yeah,
Sorry.
go ahead, Jasir.
It's like, I had a scene with someone from the CHR or something like that, for example, and it's like, Crux would hit us up or something. This is an example. It's just like, exactly what Marl was saying. Like, we would just get so much flack for it. So, just to kind of echo what everybody's saying, like, we do want to work on lore, and we actually have a lot of people who are willing to just like sit down and just do that. We've got 2 separate teams for that. So, like, one for lore, one for mechanics, and like some people, like we have people in our faction that are stronger at lore as well, who just are sitting and waiting. But yeah, I do think that with the CHR join, like there would be a really interesting narrative that would go there. It's just right now, like it's hard to talk narrative right now when we actually need stuff to kind of happen.
Yeah, I get that. It's just I try not to like. I'm a little bit different than most people, I think, in that I don't try and argue from a place of what I want to do generally. I try and argue from a place of like what I think I can pass in my faction. Right? Which is a little different than a lot of people. Because like I'm sitting here thinking about the hurdles of like putting a shipping combine, and like you'll have some people who are very for it, you have some people who will be very against it for various reasons, but then like what if the bluff is called, right? And they don't, they're like, they won't attack us on our planet. Like, now I have to, after that, now I have to try and pass in CHR an aggressive attacking movement towards another planet, which is fucking hard.
I don't think that they'll call it. Honestly, I don't think that they'll call it. And if they do, it's not out of our realm to have CHR trade assets for assets, and then just let somebody else do it. If that's the biggest hurdle.
And beyond that, in the long game, for those people who had or have lore plans for, as you said, fourth core, we are all for expanding lore for everybody in the STO, like, extensively. It's a big sticking point for a number of players in the STO, especially influential personalities there that have like delegate access, that certain major sweeping lore concessions occur that would promote various factions such as yourselves. So we would push for that heavily if there is concern about your lore falling behind because of making aggressive plays. And unfortunately, we have been told through back channels before that the High Church is, well, not to be trusted regarding anything that they deal with you on. But I mean, that's not my call to make for you guys on your behalf, though. But I would just state that trying to work out a deal with the High Church that is effectively them making a compromise just to pull one over on the STO it's like building a house on sand, really, because then they will use the opportunity to finally consolidate their power structure to dictate lore to anybody that they can.
I don't know, that's hard.
I mean, they've done it before, so
Yeah.
I don't see why they wouldn't do it again. This is my issue there.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm so against the whole thing over
What,
there,
the
because
High Church thing.
yeah,
We'll play in this box, but if you leave this box, we'll smack you in the face deal.
yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of
I don't
sounds
know,
like a
it's just hard
UPC deal, I heard.
Yeah, we go very similar options.
Well, no, the UPC deal was very, like, mechanically restrictive. Ours isn't very mechanically restrictive. It's just, like, putting your lore nuts in a vice grip.
I would be willing to state that I'm okay with fucking them up and reinstating a new popedom or promoting a heterodoxy.
I don't know what we would want there, if I'm honest.
I don't.
I'm just letting you know, like, I'm okay with them not existing.
I mean, we are definitely okay with them not existing. I feel like that's not.
Yeah, that's one of the chief, like, paranoias about the STO, I think, in our faction, is that, like, the Houses Minor will go down, and then we will stop. And the CHR does not want to stop there.
The
We can't. I don't
the
think
church needs to go down too.
I don't think we're going to be in a space where the church can exist the way they have. At the very minimum, with you in STO as a full STO partner, we would at the very least pursue parity between you and the High Church, which means they can't restrict you, they can't dictate against you. You have full mechanical access to wherever you want to go. That would be it.
lore
At
access
minimum.
too.
Yeah. That's also what I was saying. Is like we would at minimum we would want you legitimized on the same level as them. But I am of the opinion that mechanically they cannot exist in this fashion as they have with what they've done and the threats that they make and the asset availability that they have, if we just let them be, then we're making a huge mistake for down the line. Like it's pushing a problem into the future where it's like cancer being allowed to grow, really. And I like if you stipulate that to STO as well, STO will honor that. It's a big sticking point within STO that we're trying to honor our agreements internally. So, yeah.
Yeah, and just yeah, from our perspective, like since we've joined, they've been very committed and they've worked with us a lot on a lot of things, like and pretty much understanding that yes, we are nobles and um, we are kind of in this like tight space, so they've been very understanding with that, and yeah, we appreciate that, and yeah, we could say like if you join, like things would not be any different. They would, we would all work together on this.
I mean, I wouldn't. It wouldn't affect me very much. I wouldn't be over there. If me getting over Acre stuff, it's a bridge too far. Like it's just not happening. Yeah, I'm not gonna get over it. I know myself, and I know that like I hold grudges, and I'm very hard to make mad. But when you get me mad, I don't ever let go of it, and so I just know I won't get over it.
So yeah, like that's like Lucky just pointed out in chat. Like Acre is not STO, and STO is not Acre. Like there's a huge difference there, and
I
we are.
understand that, but I also understand that like in the process of joint planning, there may be things that are like give money to Acre, let Acre have an asset on your planet, give an asset to Acre, things like that, and like for me that will always be an issue because of personal relationships.
With certain members or just kind of like all of Acre?
I outside of Harvey, who isn't even in Acre anymore, right?
Yeah.
I don't have a lot of nice things to say about pretty much any dealing I've ever had with any of them.
I will say that on the internal side, well, okay, speaking first on like relevant related things, we've definitely been disappointed in actions Acre's taken against our advice and so on. They've at one point were just making decisions without really understanding where we were coming from regarding understanding other factions' wants and needs. They have moved from a lot of pressure and a lot of realization and a lot of like oops. They've moved to a place where they realize they made a lot of mistakes and they did a lot of things that they shouldn't have. I won't say that it's that you have to forgive them or anything like that. And I understand if you would never join the server because you don't want to interact with them in the future. But speaking on that point, I think they've done a lot of learning and developing and realizing that they're not as big and tough as they think they are. And additionally, being an STO, even though it put them in a stronger place due to their mechanical weaknesses, they're also in a much more vulnerable place too, where they can be outvoted, and when it comes to a conflict, if they betray STO, they can be overwhelmed. They've put themselves in a difficult situation that they won't realize until much further down the line if they end up at odds with all of us. And fortunately, they have voting parity with the rest of us too, so we can push to override them on a lot of things. And most votes in there are by wide majority. So, as voting partners of STO, you would us and you would be able to override a lot of votes and convince other moderates that certain things that they may end up demanding of you to do certain things mechanically in the future, we can push that off of you and stipulate that no, you can't do this. They are very much willing to respect lines that we draw in the sand regarding Vela, because they know that we need to work together and be friends and all that stuff, and they won't push us on things that we say that we will not do.
I think the
So that's-
concern there, Barca, is that Acres kind of betrayed their faith before, betrayed the CHR's trust before, and yeah, like I just want to kind of emphasize, like, the STO isn't just Acre, and if you guys make stipulations in your or conditional joining, in which you just add another line, the war doesn't end with Houses Minor, and if you just make that a condition of you joining, then the rest of the STO would be beholden to continue that with or without Acres' support.
Yeah, like this particular conflict must occur, and you cannot demand these things of us, these particular things of us, and otherwise we will work together with you on all kinds of things.
I mean, given the time frame that we're voting, and like our big powwow and our vote is coming on the 15th, like I feel like that's something that would have to be done after the joining decision was made, because I don't think we're gonna get into quibbling over words and stuff and slow communication. I just don't think it'll happen in time.
Yeah, I mean, all you really have to do is just add a line that says, if there is war, houses may, or High Church, must get attacked, something like that, or must be destroyed, or whatever, however moderate you guys want to be or extreme you guys want to be. It doesn't really matter. I would just say quote unquote pacified, and then put like a asset limit, so that way they're limited by assets. If they only have like 5 assets, they can't really threaten you guys anymore.
And so I'm just gonna ask, because this is only really relevant to you guys. UPC is almost certainly going to push for like full direct democracy or an end to nobility. Like whether that's they push for that now or they eventually push for it, and like what is your response to that eventuality that's gonna come?
I could go with like full on communism. I don't care. That's just me. But there are people in Vela who think similarly.
Yeah, there are certain members who are kind of like, I would actually like to stay a noble in some sense of that, and if we can work something out where I, keep my nobility and UPC doesn't burn everything to the fucking ground, then, I think we'd be cool. But yeah, I was just joking about the UPC part. But in my opinion, like I do still like that differentiation, like the separation of that, and I mean, like personally, yeah, I think everybody should be equal, whatever. But in this game, I don't think so. Like, there's nobles and there's like snobs and people higher up, and that should be that. Keeps it interesting, I guess.
There was the meeting with STO today. I think one of the like compromises being thrown around that seemed to be popular with the UPC reps, like as a compromise, was I believe abolishing serfdom and making citizenship a thing, and having a multi-house like legislature or something, where there was like the noble house, but then there's like the commoner senate and stuff like that, where it's effectively a democracy or a republic of some form, but nobles still exist. And it is true that we do have to respect a certain degree of lore in this game, because we are a noble house. We chose to join a noble house in the game. So, like, even though I personally, as myself as a player, am okay with just abolishing all of nobility altogether, whatever, I do understand and respect like some of my compatriots in Velo that think that there is that minimum of lore that we do have to respect as a house, and that like we wouldn't ask the UPC to be like, why don't you just all become nobles instead? Like, why don't we just make the UPC a house and become nobles? Because that wouldn't work for their lore either. It doesn't make sense. So there is that compromise to be had, and we're going to talk that out, I believe. But we'll want to ask like what their baseline is. I really want to know what their baseline is. And then I want to move up from that baseline for a better, something better than what their baseline is. But at the very least, I want to know what they need, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, and I think in addition to that, the way that I think I want to go about it is just asking, like, okay, if we give you full democracy, like, what's your plan for, the rest of the game? Because if there's no plan there afterwards, like, if they don't see a future there already, then getting something instantly isn't interesting, like, lore-wise and that kind of stuff. And if they don't have something like that, I would advocate that that's a point we can definitely get to. And why don't we set up some mechanical and lore goals that we can work towards that, to kind of get to a progressional point where, we'll start off with these concessions. And then if these things happens, like, maybe we can have like a mini war between Vela and UPC about these things. Like, okay, we'll start building the same assets and just roll it out on planets, or like make a mechanical mini game out of it and kind of see where it goes, or play around with lore and kind of push the boundaries of both sides and kind of see where that goes and just find something interesting. Because if they don't have something interesting planned after they have democracy, then just getting democracy flat out as a base offer isn't really all that appealing, because now you have the thing that you wanted and it's not as great as you thought it was, because there's nothing to push afterwards.
I like that idea of a fabricated war for a fabricated war narrative thing, where we're like, okay, gentleman's agreement, we're gonna duke it out over XYZ planet, and then whoever gets the BOI first, you win democracy, and the Vela nobility is overthrown or something. But also, yeah, staggered reform too would work, where it's like, at least we can have a slow narrative development towards there. But then the other thing too is, we might not even be nobles by the end of this conflict, so it wouldn't even matter anymore. And like, that's highly, highly likely. Like, treason is there on the horizon.
Yeah, that's why. Okay, that's why partly I don't understand the whole argument about remaining nobles. Like, you're putting yourself in a situation where you're most likely ending up not being nobles anyway, and I just don't get why.
Well, I mean, it could just mean like we're creating a new system, and whether that new system has nobility in it or not is relative to the people that are creating that new system, right?
Yeah.
Like, we could create a new system with classism, and that's essentially the same thing as nobility, right? Like, there's a lot of things that we can definitely play around with. That doesn't necessarily mean that the nobility has to exist. And also, before we usurp Adam's lore, I think that should be something we confront him on. Like, if the STO wins this war, these are the things that are probably going to happen, Adam. Is that okay with you? Um,
Yeah.
right? Like, if he's not even okay with democracy happening in his game, then I don't know if that's even a goal that can even happen for the UPC. Um, like, I know Adam said, like, okay, that's, you guys are anti-noble, but whatever anti-noble means doesn't necessarily have to mean diplomacy, right? And it's just or democracy, fuck me. Um, and so again, and that's not even a question I've asked Adam, because that's not been something that's applied to me specifically. So it's just something that I'm kind of ignorant on, and might have to get more interested in, um, when the time comes, right? But yeah, like we have a lot of room to play around in because of things that can potentially happen and whatnot. So we're pretty okay with creating a new system. It's just whatever that, like, what does that new system look like? And I think everybody has to be happy, not just UPC, but CHR, Vela, Acre, Prism, not 14 Red
Yeah.
Dogs because they're criminals.
Yeah, I know, but
Yeah.
I would say that out of all the factions, the two that are strictly political factions are you guys and UPC. So you'll have the most skin in that game, right?
Yeah.
And obviously the most demands.
Yeah. And I think the main talking point I want to go into the UPC talks is just kind of like, is there something where we can create a new legitimized new empire, I guess, between the CHR, Vela, and UPC? Because then we have like this religious backing, this noble backing, and the people's backing. And that might be the most interesting route, right? Like, I'm not sure. I haven't had enough talks with UPC to kind of know where their headspace is in, and almost every talk that I've seen UPC be in is been taken over by Rosa, right? So I kind of want to know like where the rest of the people sit and go from there, because we're kind of like a empty slate almost.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm.
I think one thing that a lot of our players could definitely get on board with is kind of writing out a future narrative with the UPC where it's like, okay, on turn 8, then something happens here, and then turn 10, something happens here, blah, 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 where it's like a slow rolling, like a slow rolling revolutionary restructuring of the whole sector.
Yeah,
That
like,
way it
like
doesn't
I
happen
can I can imagine like every time a planet is taken over, there's like a revolutionary thing going on there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just don't know if UPC will be on board with that. I think that I'm pretty sure what happened on I think it was turn 2, or in between turn 2 and turn 3, Adam kind of gave them a new ruling on how they could legitimize themselves. And I think I might want to because it seems like they were having fun with that, or they were on board with it instantly. And I have a feeling it was about Boeing.
I heard from somebody in Prism who used to be in the UPC that they said, or I think it was somebody in
Like,
Prism. That used to be
yeah, Grigory.
Yeah, Grigory. I think he said that that was not actually like it was something weird. It was like Adam thought about it, but then he ended up going back on it, and it was just like an idea.
Gotcha.
We can ask them about that.
And
I if that BOI on every noble planet equals revolution thing is true, then I'd be okay with giving them the concession that like we're gonna play the noble part, but we'll let you BOI on our planet, and then you can continue to do your thing.
I don't even know if like again, if there's no end goal there, I think the most interesting thing is just the narrative, right? But again, I want to know their perspective, um, because
Yeah, and
if
that's
they
why
have,
we'll have our talks.
yeah, exactly. Because if they have an end game goal, and that seems very interesting to us, um, like I don't see a reason why we would be hesitant on stopping that interesting thing from happening. Um, it's just, I'm not entirely sure if they have like anything planned after democracy is there, because it for me it doesn't make sense that they would, because for the most part it hasn't really been in the horizon. So um, if that's their end game goal, and if that's like the first thing that they're gonna ask for, and that's like the end all be all, I mean, I think, yeah, we could definitely work on some sort of slow roll, or some sort of way that they can have it where it's interesting and not too hard and fun for everybody, right? So, because
Yeah, I think like not to speak for them, but I think what you're going to get from baseline asks is from the UPC, like what they can all agree on is like less or no noble rights, increased people's rights or democracy, and increased non-human rights. I think like that's pretty much universally where they're gonna land.
yeah, and I've had like a few ideas on how to do that, like creating basic human rights, but in those basic human rights, it includes representation, like the right to be represented, and that's not only on like a baseline like legal representation, but also on a governmental representation. The main idea that I had was, um, if we were gonna go for a new empire, where we're delegitimizing the high church, it would be like CHR has a 1/3 say, nobility has a 1/3 say, and the people have a 1/3 say. Um, and there would be like ways to elevate yourself, um, in like a new class system and that kind of stuff, and then also autonomy on planets that you own. So serfdom would only be limited to planets that are owned by people, and we would remove the quote unquote emperor ideals, in which like all the planets belong to the empire and you're just leasing the land, sort of thing. We would potentially
The
remove
only
that.
tough part about that is that one of the things that Rosa and both Rosa and like other people like guardsmen promote is that if there's gonna be freedom for people, there should be freedom for all. Like if there's one planet where serfdom is allowed, that's probably not gonna be okay by them.
Yeah,
But the
but
but we could
oh,
just like do the whole citizenship thing that you guys have brought up that's been sent to us recently about 12 points and how like the indentured servitude is a thing but only for 10 years, and after that you're forced to let go, etc.
yeah, and again, I mean, it could be something along that line as well, where serfdom is a thing, but it's only for a specific amount of time. Like it might be service, and you might be able to escalate your positioning. I would rather have it just be something easier rather than something harder. Um, but again, it's something that like I don't think anybody can figure out except Vela and UPC, right? So
Yeah,
it
definitely.
it's
Like
not
it would
something, yeah. It's
it
hard,
would
right?
have to be on the Thursday talks.
Yeah.
It's just good to have ideas out already,
Yeah.
so we're both aware of what the other's thinking, so we can go into the talks like with at least somewhat of a united idea.
Mm-hmm. What like so? What is CHR's kind of end game goal? I mean, I know, Sunny, you and I kind of talked, and you said that there kind of really wasn't. But if there was like something that everybody kind of wants, like what is it?
I mean,
I
non-human
can,
rights.
yeah, I would say non-human rights is definitely one. The other, like, without saying too much, is that like you have to, I Like I made Harper Bellis like lose a fucking circuit when I told him this shit, which was funny as shit to me. But like the operative word of our faction is repentance, right? And one of the things that we've tried to do internally in our faction is devise how you can make the word repentance appear on a game board that is not built to, deal with abstract concepts, right? And so, like, there's some varying opinions on what that looks like in the sector, which would be our end goal.
Like mechanically?
Yes, to mechanically make repentance appear on the game board, yes.
How?
You just spell it out.
Like-
It's easy.
we draw a line through the hexes and it spells
we-
out.
we-
repentance.
Yeah, it spells out repent.
For
Well,
example, like here's one that's probably not going to happen, right?
Okay.
In terms of mechanics, because it's just we would have had to have committed to it from the very start, and we deviated from it, so it's never really going to happen. One of the ideas was uplifting aliens, which is mechanically you go to every planet that has alien civilization on it, you put a BOI on it, and you raise it to TL4 or above. Right? That's a way to repent for the alien massacre in the past by elevating them in their tech level and bringing them back to where they were. That's one version of mechanically making repentance happen on the game board.
Okay. I forget how our tag works, but I mean, something like that is viable if you would help pay for it because it's expensive. But yeah.
Well, the big issue is the one in the bottom right corner. It's just a hellhole to get down there.
Oh yeah, the next to the animal planet
Yeah.
under the guild.
Animal Planet.
Do you
Yeah,
guys
it would,
count?
like-
Hold on. Do you guys count furries as aliens?
Yeah.
And
No,
they are
it's-
non-humans. Non-human
it's-
rights. The
All right.
furries
Okay.
count.
All right.
Oh,
That's
so-
where I draw my line.
Oh, yeah. I think this conversation is over.
Yeah.
I believe that only one person has made an actual RP location for a cat person cafe, and they were in Vela.
We know who that is.
I mean, it's not hard to guess.
Yeah. But as you
So,
can
I
probably
reject
guess, as you could probably guess, it may not be the most popular decision.
I mean, it's fine. It's just.
I've heard
just
that he ruffles a couple feathers. A couple.
Yo, that furry planet's already TL5. You ain't gonna worry about that shit.
Well, you have to get a unit down there, put a BOI down, and then get your
There-
unit back. So it's like
There's an
fucking
alien planet. There's an
turns.
alien planet next to it.
Yeah, and it's already
Yeah.
TL4.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you just have to get down there, which is a
Yeah,
hell.
we need to. We just need to put a boy on there to make sure
I
that
think
they're fine.
Yeah, hopefully, I mean, okay, so hypothetically, the conflict ends, we all win. I think we can help you try to get down there, at least by, like, helping you with the resources necessary to get there.
Okay.
And I think
Also,
a lot of people...
like, I don't want to give the wrong impression. Like, this is
No,
not
this is just
actually-
one idea.
Yeah, this
Yeah,
is just.
like-
I'm just giving you an example of an idea of how you can make it material. Like that one's not exactly the most popular. It's not like people in our faction are dying to go to the bottom right corner and put base of influence on.
Are
Cat
you
Girl
sure are you sure your faction's not dying to go to Furry Planet? Are you sure?
There's-
Yeah, I'm pretty
no
sure
one
they
is
hate furries
dying
as
to
much
go
as.
there now, but there is some regret that we didn't go there previously.
Well, are you willing to go to war for it?
For cats, yeah,
Yeah.
probably.
Yeah.
Oh,
But-
Lord.
I think a lot of Velans would actually, when the conflict ends and we have a lot less stress, I think a lot of our folks would actually be very happy to return back to focusing on lore, because it's been a lot, you know. And we started out with like, we had that whole, was it the surveyors up north on the planet with the other,
Urgus?
yeah, Urgus with its own preceptor archives, which matches our tag and it matches the one on our planet. and we tried to uplift it. You know, we spent the 2 creds and we rolled the dice, and it didn't work. And we were like, well, that was like a whole lore thing that we were willing to do. And then reality hit us like a wave. But hopefully, we can progress past that after this whole conflict is settled, and move back to doing like interesting lore mechanical stuff that also feeds into the story of the show, you know, because that's what I wanted to do originally, is build up a world that like is cool for the show. Because a lot of the lore that I used to write, I wrote a lot. It was focused on like making it. I was basically trying to write out a whole D&D setting, basically for the players if they ever ended up in our corner of the setting at all. But you know, that all got pushed to the side when we got 1,000 votes to do in a month, and everybody's screaming at us and stuff.
War. What is it good for?
Killing
Exactly.
Vagrant.
I love it. It cracks me up every time that you're the one saying that.
Our memes can become dreams. We can finally kill.
We can finally kill Vagrant. You know what? At this point, I'll let you guys.
Yeah, I mean, y'all might remember me. I was Barca, or I still am Barca, but my name was Barca.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I tried to push that plan to get you guys on Sean.
You
And,
have no idea how many
Yeah.
hours I put into that shit.
Yeah, I kept trying to push and prod the houses on it, and then died. It just died. And like I was all for it, but it died at their feet.
It didn't.
died-
No, it didn't die at the house's feet. It died at
Yeah.
the church's feet.
Well, yeah, it died at the high church too. But the houses pushed it onto the high church and said, "Well, why don't you decide?"
Yeah,
No.
they were like, basically like, we don't want to make this lore commitment, but we like the mechanics. Hey, High Church, deal with the lore. And the High Church is like, we don't want to do this.
And
And
you
then
know,
it died.
all it was is just like, "Well, you exist," which is what Adam said. But whatever.
Just, yeah.
Yeah.
There
Well,
goes like
yeah.
80 hours of my life, maybe 100 hours of my life. Just
Well,
torched on fire.
if we just kill the High Church, then your 80 hours have been redeemed.
Oh, dang.
Been repented for.
Yeah.
Oh, it's getting. I was
There you
so
go.
frustrated with,
That's the sacrifice
Mark.
you need to make. That's the sacrifice you need to make. The high church is not repentant.
Oh yeah, Mark in the show.
Yeah, he kept
my
saying repentant over and over. He said it like 10 times. And I was just like,
I'm so mad.
Well, what's he talking about? I missed the show, so I have no idea.
he called like someone hit like a repentant brother or something, and he referred to them like 3 times, and then like this guy did a bad thing, and he was like, well, maybe you should repent for your sins. And I was like,
Maybe the one thing we don't know is he's secretly on our side.
you're cornering my market.
Yep. Man, I would lose my shit. I would just like, I don't even know what I would do at that point.
What if he's a synth?
I mean, that's
After
obvious.
this,
Everyone is.
episode, well, yeah, I can.
I mean, go ahead. You can spoil. I don't care.
No,
Watch
no,
it
no,
eventually.
no. I'm not gonna spoil, but like, yeah, after this episode, he's definitely a badass. Like, you could definitely tell. But I don't think he's a simp. I doubt it.
Wait, did I miss an episode?
All High Church people are synths.
Oh, okay, I see.
That's the secret.
So
Which episode? Which episode was the last episode? Was it the one with the SWAT team thing? Or did they have another
They-
episode after that?
this was when I think. So wait, who? I don't want to just like.
I
say
haven't
that's
watched
what-
it. I'm like 3 episodes behind.
Oh,
Ah,
don't talk about it then. Don't.
Yeah,
That's fine.
Whatever.
yeah. There's nothing I could say that would just be like, oh, this is a spoiler at all.
Turns
Yeah,
out
but-
Vellans are God. So,
Point
you
is,
know.
there's like several things that we might want. Like definitely first thing first, you know, synthetics. Just because we brought it up already. Like that's a huge thing for CHR.
That's weird because it's a huge thing for fucking 14 Red Dogs too.
Mhm.
Oh, synth rights.
Yes, unlike the dogs who,
Wanna build more synths.
hmm for whatever purposes, cough cough.
Not war. Repenting.
Mm-hmm.
I'm
Sure.
I'm okay with synth rights. Like, I mean, we're gonna end up on the wrong side of Crux anyway. So
Honestly, I think everybody knows that synths were good for us.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah,
it's like being in the golden age and then not being in the golden age. It's like, all right, yeah, I understand that there's this fake quote unquote threat or real quote unquote threat, but I don't know. I think
Can we have our
everybody's like,
synths? Can we have our synths back now,
yeah.
please?
it's not even like the golden age. It's like
No, Adam said it was. It got rid. It was
no,
like
no.
thing.
I mean, like the extremes are like, okay, we have industry, but now we don't have industry anymore. Like, how do you even survive? You know, because they were the workforce, and that one synth example from like the first episode could do the work of like 1,000 people or something.
Yeah.
Like, how are we even alive right now if that's how good they were? You know, so it's something. But I think
Because we had like robot industry to fall back on. It's just not that great.
yeah.
Yeah, human powered, shit is always worse.
Yeah.
Yeah. Humans are the worst. I agree.
Right? Yeah. Well, I'm not a synth.
He can only say that because he's a synth.
I was trying to get.
I mean, I'm in jail. I shouldn't even be here.
Well, yeah, like, don't call me a synth when you're in jail. So,
Yes, I was
You're the
calling
synth?
you a synth. Jasir's definitely a synth.
Look, my character's lore is that his sister was a synth, and that my character was mistaken for being a synth. So, you know.
It makes sense.
Yeah.
It's fun. But yeah,
Any
so
more, like-
synths, right, are pretty important for us. But yeah.
Any more like long-term goals you guys want to talk about, or
I mean, keeping Acre in check. I feel like that's about it.
Accomplish. I can't tell you about it, but accomplishing our faction secret and not immediately dying.
so
I
what's
mean,
your,
it's
what's
it's tied to what we discussed anyway. So
Yeah. It's
Um,
we have a faction secret that if we do it, we're probably gonna, and like things are the way they are now, we'll probably instantly get murdered by pretty much over half the map. So
it's kind of weird that we already have half the map.
I mean, the other half is the issue.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, the other half is
Well-
fine though, because we're gonna murder them.
no.
look, you should-
I mean,
then.
we're gonna make them repent.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're gonna
They-
we're gonna force them to repent. Makes sense.
Nah.
Not force. Request they do it with our superior cunning and wealth.
Mm-hmm. So there's two Space Marines that are just like hanging out.
Those
doing,
guys
you know-
are just dressed for the part. They just want to hug
Okay.
it out.
they're there for training.
Oh, yeah, it's that
There you
one
go.
prism.
two Space Marines walk into a bar.
No,
They
like-
shoot everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah, basically. But it's that one Prism article where it turns out that they were just space marine parks. They're just dolphins in space.
There you go.
It's very
To be fair, if there was any planet to land on that was probably the like least lore I don't know, break.
Intrusive,
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
no, just like not to be like problematic with lore, it would probably be Dio Mikado.
Yeah.
Be like, heard you guys wanted to fight. We'll go fight the people that want to fight.
All right, I have to go eat dinner, so
Yeah, no worries. I think we're winding down anyways. I'm pretty sure we've talked about everything we wanted to talk about, unless you guys still have something on the agenda.
No, I think that's
Uh,
it. We don't really. I don't really have any concerns, but I've been talking for a while now. So
Do you do you have
All
any
board.
impression? Do you have any impression of where you feel things might be swinging internally that you'd be comfortable with sharing with us? You don't have to
well,
say.
let's. The last vote we did was like in terms of joining versus not joining. The STO was literally a 50-50 split, I believe.
Okay.
Since then, uh,
things have
it's
changed.
hard to say entirely because I don't think that we've had like a mass amount of AFKs over the past 4 days, and that's the period of time in which like the Houses Minor finally came around with real shit. So like it's hard to get a read on people's reaction to that because they just haven't been around. But if I would guess now, I would guess that it's going to be like 66-33 in favor of the STO. But that's just a guess.
Okay. Yeah, we won't share that with anybody, because we don't want to. We definitely don't want to mislead people and get people mad if it's not the case either. So
Yeah, but
All right.
there's the leaning is definitely there. Like I feel like
okay. Yeah. Well, thank you for the heads up. Thank you for the talks too. I think this was productive in like clarifying where our headspace is at.
hmm
And it's good to know like where your like different player groups are at with like lore versus mechanics and stuff, and moving forward on that part.
Yeah, and
Hopefully
I'm sorry, like, I'm sorry if I come off contrarian. I just like, I know that Sunny's been representing more like the, hey, this is why we, this is why we would love to join you guys. And I feel like there exists voices in CHR where it's like they don't want to, and someone has to give you guys like. I would rather you hear it from us rather than like the vote fails and you guys are like, why the fuck did it fail?
no,
And then we have to like explain it to you afterwards.
yeah, we definitely understand that in Vela. Like, we try very hard not to be like absolute in our representative authority, and we like to show contrarian views and show different opinions, which I think Jasir did a fair job at like representing that other view in Vela. But overall, as you can hear from what we said, we're pretty pro CHR by and large, even our conservative side.
yeah,
So,
that's good to hear.
Well, I mean, that's because we're the cutest.
yeah,
Let's be real.
I mean, and then you're gonna have the furry people too.
I'm not sold on that still, but
I'm
Look,
gonna
you get the
accidentally
furry.
vagrant that planet.
If you get the furries, if you get the furries, there are certain players in Vela who will die for you. They'll just die for you.
nice.
I
Good
can-
good deal.
All right, I'm gonna go get dinner now.
All
Have
right.
a good night, all of you.
Take care.
Yeah. Bye.
Peace.
All right, see ya.
See ya.
Good talk.
Peace.